This week, coming up from the ashes.
So Mason had the surgery, and then we found another. Well, around the same time, we found another spot on his other side. It was on his. So he had one spot on his right, like on his rib, like right around on his ribs, and then we found one on the left side. And so within 3 weeks' time, now mind you, I had to get all this done because we were moving to Colorado in June, and it was April. Okay, so he had his first surgery like probably beginning of May. And then 3 weeks later, he had his second surgery, and they were both mast cell tumors. Welcome, everybody, to From the Ashes. Today is Monday, July 15th, and I am here today with some of my besties. Say hello, besties.
Hello, besties.
Hello, besties.
Well, all right, fine. Hello, besties.
Oh, there we go. So I am Phoenix, and joined with me today at the hip is Arson, Al, and Zhombi. And today we're going to be discussing something very close to my heart, very personal to me, and it is my dog, actually, Mason. Just a little backstory real quick before we get started. If anybody ever watches my stream, my dog is like my co-host basically on there. He has his own camera. And so Arson had this bright idea to have a podcast that was strictly about my dog. And so here we are. We decided to do it. I feel like it was just a cop out to try to get me to talk the whole time and let them just like earn their pay for nothing. So, you know.
We'd never do that.
We never get paid.
He'd never get paid. He'll never get paid anyway. So
that's what I meant.
Yeah. But yeah, so before we get into that, how you guys doing? How's your Monday?
It's not Monday.
What?
Hey, shh. It's every week with you guys. Gosh.
They already know. I mean, we kind of spilled the beans on the true nature of this podcast quite a number of times.
We have, and to be fair, I was about to say, how's your Saturday going? And I was like, how's your Monday? So
How's my
that.
Saturday? Well, I kind of just woke up.
How was your Saturday since today is Monday? No. So anyways, okay. But how are you guys doing besides just waking up?
You know,
I'm good.
Playing the Elden Ring DLC is pretty good, mate.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Arson,
we gotta start that.
Arson wants to spoil the whole Elden Ring thing for you for
Yeah,
the
I
DLC.
actually fought a couple bosses. Let me tell you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not that evil. Jeez.
Well, I'll tell you. Wow, bless you. Before we get into this conversation, I just want to say that what Al and I kind of had a bet, okay? And it's been pretty interesting because this bet has seen, okay, most of you know, anybody that watches this or listens to this podcast knows I'm a DBD player. Al is a big time one as well. Arson does sometimes, and Zhombi says to heck with it. So, but anyways, Al is strictly a survivor person. Like, he does not play killer at all. So we made a bet, and the bet goes like this: if I can get my killer to Eerie 1, and I've only done it once before, and it was before they restructured all the stuff. But if I can get my killer to Eerie 1, he'll start playing killer. So I started doing this 2 days ago. Okay. And within the 24-hour period, I got my killer from Ash 4 to Silver 2.
You're basically halfway there.
So I'm halfway there. And I'm living on a prayer, you know. So no. So what's even more like exciting for me is I've played 20 matches as killer, okay? In these 20 matches of killer, I 4K'd everybody. Now here's where Al tears me apart because of why, Al?
Yes. Yeah, because you play with baby survivors still.
All right, so for those that don't
They
know,
were experienced survivors. You wouldn't be able to 4K them every game.
You've purposefully lost so many times that you've gotten the bottom of the barrel. Absolute
When I watched the games, I'm like, what are these people doing?
to
pup
be
dog-eyed
fair,
survivors I've ever seen in my life.
to be fair, when I play killer, I play friendly, like a friendly doctor, and I let people live. And so my MMR in there is trash because, you know, when I do go and actually try to play the game, I usually 4K them. However, you know, since I've been doing this, I'm on a streak now of 20 straight wins of 4King everybody I see. And this will be the only time everybody will see this, because once I get the Eerie one, I'm done doing that. And then, yeah. But I will say I've had some pretty good chases in a couple of those, because I think there's been a couple groups of people coming in, and those people had a better MMR, and I still got them. So I'm just saying.
You've turned from a
Uh-huh.
gentle caretaker into a giant grinder machine for those people.
yeah, I have.
A wolf in sheep's clothing, if you
Hey,
will.
but I still stand by what I believe in, and that's not tunneling, not camping, and not slugging for the most part. So
Play
Yeah, I will say
doctor, I
that.
mean,
I
that's
will
already
say
a crime in
even-
its own.
yeah,
I will say, even with his 4K streak, he has not been tunneling to the point where, you know, he's tunneling one survivor out just to get the 4K. He really just tunnels if people try and flashlight him, which is pretty funny.
but it's not
But-
so much that either. It's I only did that once, and that was with that ash. So, but the only
Yeah,
other time
which-
I've tunneled it during this time is there was a couple people that were doing nothing but hiding, and I had everybody already hooked twice, so I went and hooked them twice before I went and killed anybody else. So that's the only reason I did it. So, you know. But now that we wasted about 6 minutes on just, you know, Al and I's little bet, let's go into the main topic. So there's only one person in this chat that's actually met my dog besides myself, and that would be Zhombi. And
Correct.
Zombie can tell you that Mason, he's a little rambunctious when he sees you. He likes to jump up, and I blame that on my wife and my ex-wife, and I'll get to that. But Zombie can tell you that he's a really good dog, really well behaved, and he's just a really good dog. He's a mix of pit and black lab. I got him when I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and I got him from the Atlanta Humane Society. He was actually born in Tennessee and brought to Atlanta, and him and his brother Bear were in the Atlanta Humane Society together. Well, when I went up there to look at him, let me backtrack a little bit, okay? Before Mason, I had a dog named Frank. Yes, Frank. I know it's kind of a strange name for a dog.
in Frank Castle?
No, so
Like
when
Frank is in Frank Wiener.
it was Frankfurter. I was waiting for someone to say that too, but no.
Frank.
My dog before Mason, I got him when he was about a year and a half old, and so he was already named, and I wasn't going to rename him, right? So it was Frank. I don't know. I didn't ever ask why they named him Frank, but that's what that's what his name was. He was a full-blooded Sheltie Collie, which is basically a miniature version of a regular collie, like Lassie. If anybody knows who Lassie is. So, you know, anyways.
Look, is somebody stuck down the well again?
Timmy's stuck in the well. That frickin' brat. Anyways, so back in 2007 ish, it was around 2007. I know it was 2007. Frank ended up dying. He died in my arms, and it was rough. What happened with him was there was some tainted dog food that came out of China. And do you remember that, Zombie?
I remember there've been a couple times there's been stuff like that
Yeah.
they've said, hey, don't buy this particular brand of of dog food or cat food or whatever because it's got the taint.
Yeah. Well,
taint.
the taint. Well, the thing is the brand of dog food that I used, and I always used with him, was Old Roy. And that is a Walmart brand dog food.
Yeah.
And that was one of the ones that were tainted. And he got sick that day, and I took him to the vet, and the vet was all like, oh, he's just not feeling good. He's got a temperature. Give him this, and he'll be fine. And an hour after that, he died in my arms. And it destroyed me. And I said I would never own another dog again. I said the only way I would get to own a dog or have another dog is if my kid told me to get one. That come on, Dad, let's get a dog, you know? So, okay, keep that in mind. Now, for the ones that don't know, you know, I have 2 kids. Those kids are not my blood kids.
Dad?
Yeah. Well, they're not my blood kids, but they're what you want to call bonus kids. Like, they were in a previous relationship of mine since my divorce, and we bonded so well that, you know, they're my kids. Their dad's a piece of crap and basically the sperm donor. And so, yeah, he has no purpose in their life, and you know, they're my girls. So that's
So basically like my dad.
maybe I don't know. I'm not Dr. Phil, but possibly. But so but
Don't worry, I
yeah,
have a
so,
regular therapist.
do what?
Don't worry, I have a regular therapist.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. Is that Dr. Quack? I heard comes
Yeah.
highly recommended.
He's pretty good.
Dr. Scratch and Sniff.
Dr. Scratch and Sniff.
Oh, that's what you're talking about, my rival.
All right. So, anyways, let's get back on track.
Chug it, 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 chug it.
So let's rewind. And like I said, when I got married, it was a couple years after I lost my dog. I got married, and she had a kid. Now, this is a kid I do not claim because she was horrible. But I tried. I did everything I could. But some kids just don't want to have a father figure, you know? But that being said, a couple years down the road, we go from 2010 to 2013. Well, 14. I broke down and I said, okay. So 7 years after I had a dog, I broke down and I said, let's go look for one. Now, this is where Mason comes into play. So we went to the Atlanta Humane Society, and him and his brother Bear were sitting together, and we were just like instantly wanting Mason. Or Bear, one of those two. And they were like, well, Bear's being adopted right now, and so is Mason. And Mason was actually his name there as well. I'm really big, as long as it's not a stupid name, I'm really big on keeping the dog the name, even though he was 2.5 months old. But so we were looking around, and apparently someone decided to pass on Mason. And so someone came and told us, and we jumped on the chance and we grabbed him. Such a sweet baby boy. He was born November 11th, and we picked him up, and he became part of our family on February 1st of 2014. And it's been one of the best decisions of my life. He's been my ride and die every day. And so as I was, you know, when I got him, I fell down with this, I was going for disability because I'm fully disabled with my back. And I was in the middle of that. And so we got him, and I was home a lot. And at that time, I was also doing my pastoral duties still as well, trying to at least. But, that was more of a free job, pretty much. So free for them, not me, But that's another story for another time. So we brought Mason home, and he was just so adorable as a little puppy. He still is, but he'd fit he fit so like tiny in my hands. And it was great. You know, he is just, oh, I just remember it like it was yesterday. So I started training him. I took him, like I usually do with most dogs when I get them. I took him to get basic courses done through like a PetSmart or Pet Co or something like that. And that was when it was like an arm and a leg to, cost to try to train a dog. So
Which
he
I heard
learned.
their training stuff is actually pretty good.
Oh, Petco is where we went, and which I already knew how to train a dog. I just wanted him to get a little bit of training from them. So we did some commands. And my wife, I was trying to get her to learn some of this stuff, but she only went to one session. So anyways, neither here nor there. We got through the session, and throughout that time, I taught him different things. Like I taught him how to praise Jesus. He will pop up on his hind legs and pull his paws all the way up, stretch them all the way far. And when I say, Mason, praise Jesus, I've taught him to bark and to do two different tones. He'll bark loud and he'll bark quieter. I've taught him to be very patient with food. And everything else. The one thing I could not teach him was, so picture this like probably 7 to 10 pound dog, right? Maybe not even 7, maybe well, it's probably about 7 to 10. But anyways, picture this dog like hopping up on you, and the wife is like, "Oh, that is so cute." I was like, "Honey, we need to teach him not to jump on people." And she was like, "Oh, there's no harm in that. Look at him. He's so adorable." I was like, "This adorable little dog's going to get to 65 pounds. And when he jumps on you, he's going to knock you over." And I was like, "What if he jumps on a kid?" I was like, "We cannot have him doing that." Also, she was all about taking him out 15 times a day. I said, "I'll take him out 3 times a day. You can take him out the rest, because I will train this dog to go out 3 times a day on my schedule, not on his. And I will get him there." So, the first few months were a little, I mean, granted, Mason would not bark at all. He still did not have a voice, really. He just, would sit there and kind of like, "Rawr, rawr, rawr, rawr," the first time I got to get him to bark, to speak, I got it on video. It was really cool because I used to video that stuff all the time just to try to get it. And I did. And there's other things he used to do. He used to be able to shut and open the door. I don't think he really does anymore. I haven't really trained him that much. Like as long he can't like twist the knob or anything like that. As long as it's not shut all the way, he can like push the door open and closed. But yeah. So anyway, so that was in 2014, and fast forward a couple years, Mason's full size now, and he's probably still in puppy stat. Well, yeah, he's probably still a puppy because dogs stay a puppy for the first 2 years of their life. And what a vet told me is basically the first 2 years of a dog's life counts as 1 year. So, well, each year counts as 1 year. So first year is 1 year, second year is 1 year. So he was 2. When the dog turns 2, they're actually 2. When they turn 2 is when they start counting by sevens for the year. So anybody that has ever counted like the first 2 years as 7 years is wrong, according to my vet. And I looked it up, and it's actually true. So I guess that's according to studies and stuff. I don't know why they do it. Like, I guess they factor in different things like the puppy years and whatnot. But so anyways,
Would you go
Mason,
on Vet MD?
do what?
Would you go look it up at Vet MD?
I don't remember. I have no idea. I think my ex-wife looked it up actually. But so anyways, so Mason was still around 2 years old, and he was by this time pretty much full size. So, but my wife, she came home from work one day, and it was hilarious because he jumped up and dang near knocked her over, like almost completely, like, and I just started laughing. I looked at her and I said, "Told you." And she just looked at me with that look like, "Shut up." But yeah, so that came back to bite her in the butt. So anyways, back to the story of Mason. Mason, he loves to travel. He likes to travel in vehicles with me, and we go back and forth a lot. When I lived in Atlanta, we'd go back and forth from my hometown in Indiana to Atlanta, back and forth, or Kentucky from where she was from. So in 2017, that's the time I separated from my ex-wife, and I'm not going to get into that, but I was very meticulous on how I did things with Mason. So anything with his paperwork had my name on it, not hers. So there's no way she could claim him, ever. And so when I left, he went with me. And so we started our journey back to Indiana, and started living our life. I first started off living with a friend of mine, and then I moved in with almost a complete stranger at the time. And that stranger's name is Chad. Anybody that don't know who Chad is, he's been on the podcast before. He's one of my best friends. He is my roommate to this day still. And that we started being roommates on January 1st, 2018. And we're still going strong, man. So he's moved states with me. He moved from Indiana to Colorado with me. So, it was pretty cool. But anyways, so during that transition, Mason had some adjustments to do. Chad had a dog. Her name was Shy, and she was absolutely hard to live with. She's a sweet dog, but as Zhombi can tell you, she had her moments. She was hard, but yeah, go ahead, Zhombi.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Yeah. She did not like living with other animals. She was top dog, and unfortunately we had to put her down earlier this year, which really sucked. But because after 6 years, I feel like she's partly mine. So, but anyways, so going back to that, there was a learning curve. Mason's a very, very, very smart and very gentle dog. So the patience that he had with Shy was crazy. Most dogs would have been bite their head off because Shy was a little terrier, so she had that little dog syndrome, right? And Mason's just whatever. But the thing is with Mason is every time he's been around other bigger dogs, they would try to bully him. For instance, when I came back to visit one time from Atlanta, I went and seen my friend, one of my friends from high school. His name's Gary, and he had 3 dogs, and 2 of those dogs tried to attack Mason the second we got out of the vehicle. And I'm not gonna say my dog knows how to fight, but my dog knows how to fight. He literally had both of these dogs pinned down in a matter of seconds. And Gary came to the door and he was like, "Dang." And I told Mason to release, and and he came straight back to me. And of course Gary chased the 2 dogs off, and he was like, "Too bad he didn't kill the one. I don't like that one." I was like, "Dang, Gary, that's kind of harsh." But I was like, so yeah, Mason is a protector, and this is going to play into the story here in a little while. So, go back to when we first got to Indiana. Back to Indiana when I started living with Chad. Mason was, just having that adjustment period, and Chad and I, the way Chad and I met is through a friend of mine and his cousin. So I met his cousin in kindergarten, and we graduated high school together, and we're still really tight to this day. And he introduced me to Chad, and Chad is we have a lot of similar aspects to ourselves. We are a lot alike. There's a lot of differences, but there's a lot of the 2 of us that are alike. And so we got a lot of the same preferences and stuff like that. So, but anyway, so We were, it was on June 20th. It was literally 19 days after I moved in with him. Mason wasn't feeling good. And my friend that introduced us, Jeremy, he was having a birthday party, and Chad was like, "Come on, you should go with me," like, because I was like, Mason's not feeling good. I don't want to leave him. And he'd be like, "Oh, he'll be fine. He'll be fine." I was like, "All right." And so we went to the party, and I think Chad somewhat wanted me to go just to go, but he also wanted me to be the DD. so we went, and we had a great time, and we got back, and Mason definitely wasn't feeling good, to the point to where now let me tell you, Chad's house is small. And it's set up differently, and there wasn't really a it wasn't really a 2-bedroom, but we turned like what was the dining room basically into my bedroom. And at that time it wasn't a bedroom yet. I was still sleeping on the couch. And Mason was sleeping with me. So Mason went into Chad's bedroom and proceeded, because he had horrible diarrhea. Okay. He was like zombie incarnate. Okay. Yeah, you know, Zombie. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, he proceeded apparently to crap all over the side of Chad's bed, his box spring, the floor, everywhere. Like it was sprayed everywhere. And it was like, now I can look back and it was funny, but it's kind of like another one of those "I told you so" moments. I told you that I should have stayed home with Mason because that happened. And, but Chad looks back on it. It's kind of funny. He's like, "Well, it's my fault." And look, I was on eggshells as it was, because I felt like I was, because I was in a new place. I didn't know Chad very well, so I didn't know how he was going to react when we saw that. I cleaned it all up. I scrubbed the side of his bed. I did all that. Luckily, he didn't get on the top of the mattress, so it was just on the side. So we got that all cleaned up, and everything was good. So, at that point, Mason's life was pretty normal. After that, for the next few years, we just, lived our best life. He traveled with me some, back and forth, different places, and, nothing real special. And, when back in 2020, when the pandemic hit, there was a lot of, limitations that we had. You guys all remember, like, a lot of people weren't even supposed to be outside much unless they had to go get stuff, and if you were outside, you should be walking your dog or stuff like that. So we started walking the dogs just to be able to get out and do stuff like that. And that went well for a while. But there was this, property that we went by, and like every day, and there was this dog that I was always trying to get out. It was a big white dog. I can't tell you what kind of. It was some sort of that I believe, I don't know, I think it was a mix of something, but anyways, so it was a big dog, pretty big dog. And one day we went by there, and it got out, and it bit Shy, this huge dog that's bigger than Mason, like a lot bigger. Bit Shy on the belly a couple times and punctured her. And this is how Mason became. This goes from 2018 to 2020, 2 years of living with her, a little over 2 years. This is how Mason became part of the family, or like she became part of Mason's family, part of Mason's pack. Is Mason literally, as soon as it happened, he had that dog pinned on the ground, and had a hold of its leg. and literally it was quicker than Chad could react, because Chad got really, really, let's just say he wasn't very nice to that dog. Yeah, so I don't know how that thing got out. It got out from underneath the fence, but the owner saw it, because I know he saw the whole thing, because within a week he had a privacy fence put up. And I told Chad, I was like, "Man, you could have done stuff. You could have sued." But So that went and showed me how amazing my dog is, because he literally just like had that dog like he didn't care. He was going straight after him, and that dog was like on the run. He had him pinned. It was great. And then
Well, I was going to say, I mean, if you look at, a lot of dogs, before that even happened, he was probably most likely aware that that dog posed a threat,
yeah.
but didn't act on it because it hadn't actually happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
Was it kind of like, hey, he's probably going to do something stupid, and I might have to wreck a bitch.
Yeah. Well, and of course, there was a fence between us, so you couldn't. But this dog just like burst out of the fence. It busted through like the Kool-Aid Man. And oh no. and Mason made him pay for it. But Chad, to this day, Chad just like is dumbfounded by that moment. He's like, he knows that if need be, Mason will defend us in a heartbeat. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I've got certain words I can use to make Mason go into that mode, but I didn't have to, because he went straight into defense for his family, and I thought that was pretty awesome. Just so you know, Shy was okay from that. But what ticked us off is no vet would take her, because it was during the pandemic. It was right at the start of the beginning. And I got to give a shout out to somebody at our local Rural King, which I don't know if you guys know what that is. I know Zhombi knows.
Yeah.
But there's a person there that helped us through that. She was like our vet. Like, it was so great. And everything she said worked perfectly. And so we made sure she was safe. So, but yeah, Mason, I'm telling you, man, there's just something about this dog. Like, I look at him right now, and he's laying right next to me, guys. It's just, he's the best thing that's ever happened in my life when it comes to, especially animals. There's not much more I love than Mason on this earth. My mom always goes like, when I say stuff like that, she's like, wait, hold on, more than me? I was like, well, you're a close second. but no, I mean, they're pretty much tied. Yeah. So, but that's my dog. He's had so many adventures in this life so far, and I hope for so many more. There's a story that I forgot to tell you guys. When I was still living in Atlanta, of course, like I said, I've trained him, right? 100% trained him. And there was this moment where I was wondering, because my former stepdaughter, she wrecked her car that I just co-signed for her, and literally totaled it. So I was having to drive her and my ex-wife back and forth to work. And so there was like, I had like this leftover steak that was from a restaurant. I don't know, it was probably like Outback or whatever, I don't know, that we had. And so I eat where I'm most comfortable, and most comfortable most of the time is in my bed. And so I was up there with Mason, and I was eating this leftover steak, and I knew I was going to have to leave to take her to work in a few minutes. And so I told her, just let me know. And so she was like, okay, I need to go. And so I was like, okay. So I was like, I'm going to try something. I purposely set Mason up to fail. I gave him a piece of the steak, and of course he was gnawing at the bit, chomping down, eating it, like just loved it. And so I had quite a lot of steak left. I set it on the bed, and I left it on the bed. And I told him, I said 5 times, leave it. That's like the thing that if I say leave it, he drops it instantly. But I said, leave it 5 times. And then I left to take her to work. Now, her work was about 10 minutes from the house, which was about a 20-minute ride, like altogether. I get back, and I go in, and in the living room is his dog bed, and he was laying on it. I'm sitting there thinking, man, I bet he's guilty of this. He went and, ate that steak, and now he's sitting there. And so I went in there. It was not touched at all. He didn't even touch it at all. I have never seen a dog do that. And ever since then, I can tell him to leave it. I mean, I've always been able to tell him to leave it, and he would just leave it. But that was a test of his character. I literally left and came back, and he did not touch that. So I just find that amazing. You know, have you guys had any animals that ever do that?
I mean, I had my cat my previous cat be another asshole to me. But,
Well, I
you
had
know,
a, I had a husky at one point. Even as a puppy, would still listen to pretty complex orders, and he would do some things like that, but not. I don't know if it like the entire point of a steak.
Yeah. Like actually give him a piece of medium rare steak and then leave it there and leave the house and then come back and still be there.
I've given him food before and then told him that put it down or take it out of his mouth or whatever, and he'll do that.
Yeah.
But it's not like I don't think I could leave it there for hours and he wouldn't go back to get it.
Well, Mason's to the point now to where I'll put something down in front of him and he won't take it until I tell him he's able to. And that just shows what kind of dog he is. And then I get Bella a few months ago, and she's the complete opposite, but she's learning. She's learning. So she's a little over 2 years old. I think she's a little older than that, but she still is learning. But this isn't about Bella. This is all about Mason. So,
Mason's still showing her the ropes.
Yeah, that's true. And boy, Bella's a whole nother story. I could tell you a few stories about her already, but again, this is not about her. This is about the chosen one, per Arson's words, not mine. So what about you, Arson? Have you had any animals like that? He's asleep.
chirp, 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 chirp.
Nah. No. What makes you say that?
He's like, what do you mean? As he's stretching, like, oh, what do you mean?
Oh, Lord, I think I pulled a muscle.
All right. Well, anyways, I'm trying to just hear other people's voices other than mine. It's been me for like the last 30 minutes, so I'm just trying to,
That is kind of the whole point, This is
I
all
know, but it's
about
just
we
too much.
contribute.
All right. So that being said, Mason has had some pretty rough times too. And this is what I'll talk about right now, and it's gonna get a little emotional for me because he's my baby boy, right? So a little over a year ago, it was around April of 2023, Mason was diagnosed with cancer. He had a spot that was a mast cell tumor, and they removed it. And let me tell you something. I don't really talk about, like, when I'm in the podcast mode, I don't really talk about like me streaming that much. But my stream saved my dog. And I got to give a shout out to Arson because he was one of the big ones. I can name everybody, and so he had to have a cancer surgery. And I did a benefit. I didn't want to because I hate asking for money. I'm too prideful. I'll admit it. I'm prideful about that. A matter of fact, I almost went homeless because I wouldn't ask Chad to stay with him. And then he threw some Bible scripture at me, and then I was like, dang it. So, I crumbled. But anyways, so I did this benefit for Mason. And the surgery was going to cost around $500. I was in a small town in Indiana. It was cheaper. And they came through like a champ. So Mason had the surgery, and then we found around the same time we found another spot on his other side. It was on so he had one spot on his right, like on his rib, like right around on his ribs. And then we found one on the left side. And so within 3 weeks' time, now mind you, I had to get all this done because we were moving to Colorado in June. And it was April. Okay. So he had his first surgery like probably beginning of May. And then 3 weeks later, he had his second surgery, and they were both mast cell tumors. And luckily, the mast cell tumors are really bad, but they are like a one and out type of deal. Like they don't regrow, they don't do anything. You know, if you get it all, you're good, and they got it all on both sides. So I did a benefit for both, and both times it was paid for. Like I cannot stress how thankful I was. But you know, there was a lot of complications that went with the first one. Like it opened back up, like the spot did a little bit, and because they I guess they did a gluing thing, kind of like they glued it or something. I can't remember. It was dissolving stitches, and it partially came open, so the scar or the spot healed weird. So there's a spot that if you look closely, you can't, like, he has no hair there, but it blends in with his coat because he's a brindle colored dog. So it kind of fits him, you know? But so we got those two done. And then a couple weeks after his surgery, we moved to Colorado. And there was a big adjustment here because of the you know, we're a mile high, you know, we're really high up, and I'm not just saying high because Colorado, I'm saying high because, you know, we're on top of a mountain, and there's a huge adjustment when you're coming from Indiana to Colorado, which this is a weird thing because I'd never even thought I would ever see a can of oxygen. Like, you know, kind of like, you know, like the electric dust stuff for your computer. Or it's a can of air with a little mask on the front that you put, and then you just kind of like puff it like it's a
Spaceballs.
Yes, Perry Air. It's exactly like that. Actually, it's exactly like that. Spaceballs. But it did come in handy. But you know, that was for me and Chad. They don't have that stuff for your animals. So Mason has like he has some conditions. He first has an allergy like condition. He has a sensitive stomach, and if he has this thing called reverse sneezing, and all dogs do it, but he apparently has it more than most. And it's got a really weird sound to it. It's almost like you're like getting to hock a loogie. You know what I mean? That's what it kind of sounds like. And so when he does that, you know, the vet told me that a dog can actually die from that if they're in the middle of so if you serve your dog the food on the ground, you know, like their bowls are straight on the ground, not elevated. And he goes into one of those attacks while drinking water or whatnot, he could die. And so, and just from being, you know, having the way he had his head. So the vet said that we should probably get, you know, an elevated, you know, dog bowl. And so I did. And, you know, so he's got a dog and water bowl that he eats and drinks out of. He's had that his whole life. And, you know, that's helped. Now, I say that to say this. When we moved out here, that changed. His reverse sneezing has become more frequent. And I've talked to the vets about it, but I guess there's not much to worry about and nothing they can really do about it. But I see it. I see it. Look, you know, I've had my dog. He is 10 and a half years old right now. And I see the aging coming, you know, like, you know how when dogs get older, they're like parts of them, like their face starts to get whiter, depending on if they're, you know, different colors and not just a white dog. But I see this in Mason. He's starting to get a little more, because he's brindled, so it blends in a little bit, but he's whiter in the face, like on his snout, around his mouth. And I hate it. I hate it so much. And it just pains me to think that, probably in the next few years, I won't have him with me. So, man. So, that being said, earlier this year, I said earlier we had to put down Chad's dog of like 13 years, almost 13 years, Shy. She was pretty bad off, and I've never seen a dog put down. And he wanted me in there for it. And what am I going to tell him? No, he's my best friend. I was there for him, and it was heartbreaking to see a dog's life leave its body, or anybody's life to leave a body. Look, as a pastor, I've seen it, and it pains me. It hits my heart so bad, and
sorry to interrupt you, but you touched. So my first cat, I had to have him put to sleep.
Yeah,
because he had bladder stones real bad, and when I went to the vet to have it done, of course they ask, "Are you going to stay?" And they kind of make you read this little pamphlet, and it's basically what it is. It says, it's kind of like a little bit from the pet to you.
mm-hmm.
And it's like, look, we're there in the good times and the bad times, and when you're broke and when you're happy and when you're sad, at least be there at my final moment.
Yeah.
Because I can only imagine as a vet how many people come in, drop off an animal, have it put to sleep, and just walk away.
Yeah.
So I definitely get that is a very difficult moment to walk in with a pet
mm-hmm.
and walk out with either an empty carrier or an empty leash.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so that is not an easy
not.
time to go through.
And as hard as I was hurting during that time, Chad was so much worse. And he said he wanted to get another dog.
Mm-hmm.
He said not to replace Shy, but so because in his words, Shy saved him, and he says,
Yeah.
I want to save another dog. So that's what started the search for a dog for him. Now, let me backtrack a little bit, because earlier, before that happened, I found out that I found another spot on Mason. And it was on the same spot that the one spot opened up, and it took forever to heal. It was on that same spot, but lower. And so I knew I had to get him to the vet and had him checked out. And I did, and they said, yeah, we're definitely so they have this test, and Mason has like 1, 2, 3, like 5 or 6 different spots on him, but they're all just little cysts, little fatty tissue, nothing serious. They tested all of them, and the only one that came back was the one that he needed removed. And so I was contemplating this, and no, I wasn't contemplating. I was contemplating the money, because I'm a guy that's on disability. I stream to make a little bit of money, and I substitute teach. That's my income. And streaming doesn't bring in the money. I mean, it may bring in a little bit, but it's nothing compared to, a real job. So as much as I'd like to tell everybody out there, hey, yes, I think you should quit your job and be streaming, that would be stupid. I think you should, if you want to stream, you have something as your main source of income, and you stream on your days that you can. And then if it becomes something, yeah, do that. But don't count that as your main source of income. Get out there and work, have a real job like everybody else. Don't try to make the easy money, but anyways, that's my little,
soapbox.
Yeah. Now I'm off my soapbox. Thank you. Thank you, Zombie. So But when I found that spot and I knew it had to be removed, I again went to my stream. And this time, from it being $500 of surgery, it was going to be between $1,100 and $1,500 for just the one surgery. It's a different area, different state, and different prices, obviously. But again, my stream helped out big time. And what I didn't cover through that, a private benefactor, basically, I'll say, covered the rest. So again, out of pocket for me was nothing for this surgery, and I'm so blessed for that. And those are the moments in my life that this is one of the reasons why I hold so dear to the people in my community, and I love them so much.
Say nothing.
Do what?
But I wouldn't say nothing.
Say nothing.
You had to slut yourself. You had to slut yourself out on stream.
Yeah, that's true. I did have to slut myself out a little bit.
Just kidding.
Followed by a 24-hour stream possibly, and all this other stuff. And but in all honesty, I'm blessed. I'm thankful beyond anything I can ever say, because of the people in my life and how they helped me with Mason. Each and every one of you that is listening to this that has given in the past or given to help Mason in this time that just happened. Thank you. So we went through the surgery, and this time it was different. Because they told me it was something, they just didn't know what it was. And so they, of course, had it tested. And when they had it tested is when I found out some pretty disturbing news. What ended up thinking it was possibly just a mast cell tumor, which they said it wasn't. It wasn't that. It was something else. Ended up being something called a soft tissue spindle cell sarcoma, and it was a grade 2. And so being told that was rough, because at first I didn't know what it was. And they told me that this is a type of cancer that even if we got it all, or even if we thought we got it all, there's a chance it possibly could grow back, and that he is going to need possible radiation. Now, I've been struggling with this for the past few weeks because I first been getting costs on this, and they told me it's going to cost between $3,000 and $15,000 for radiation treatment, depending on the severity.
Damn.
Yeah. Just for him to be seen is going to cost about $236 or something like that. And then he also has to have a CT scan, which is going to be about $1,500, is what they said. It's a lot of money.
Mason has insurance, right?
No, Mason does not have insurance. Mason did have insurance when we first got him, and but he doesn't anymore. It's just something but I just, and I've been struggling with this. So I've been reaching out to some people. I haven't really told too many people about this, but I've been reaching out. There's a couple places I'm trying to reach out to, and I'm going to do more at the beginning of the week. My bad. This is Monday. I'm going to do more tomorrow. But there's places that are like literally that are charities for dogs with cancer that do, they give you money, they give you grants and stuff like that to help you. But the problem is the only place that can treat him is 2 hours away. And some of those places, if they said if it's severe enough, we have to be out there like possibly 5 days a week. And the drive, and everything else, it's going to cost a lot of money. And lo and behold, I will do anything to save my dog. Don't get me wrong. He's 10 and a half. He, a pit's life expectancy is like 12, like not even 12. But I've seen other dogs because he is mixed with black lab. They do live a little bit longer. So I figured I've got till he's about 15. You know, about another 4.5 years. That's my own thought. If it was up to me, I always said if I had a genie, one of my wishes would be that Mason would live as long as I was on this earth. That way, because every time I think of an owner of a pet dying, I think of that Futurama episode. And you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
I know Arson knows what I mean.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart. You know, and I think of that all the time. And so I'm looking into the treatment for him. And until then, you know, he's going to be treated like a king. But I'll say this. All of that happened with the loss of Shy put me in a downward spiral. I was freaking out because just losing her, I was like, what if the surgery goes wrong and I lose him? I was like, I'll never get another dog. So at the same time, Chad was looking, I was secretly kind of looking too. And I found this shelter that's about 45 minutes from here that's actually a kill shelter. And I was looking online through their dogs. And lo and behold, I seen this dog named Blue. I'm thinking that's a stupid name for a dog. Why would you call that dog Blue? You know, unless their owner that comes and gets her, his name is Steve, and you know they decided to have a show. But no, anyways, so I saw her on there, and the adoption rates go from about 150 to about 450, depending on breed, puppy, you know, stuff like that. Older dog, the time that they've been there. And they told me that Blue was there longer than any other dog. She was the longest tenured dog. And it said it on the page. And her adoption fee was only $25. So that told me that she was about to get euthanized. You know? So I went out there, and Chad was with me, and I went and seen her. She went running straight to Chad first. I was like, hey, heifer, I'm the one that's going to get you. Come over here. And she was a sweetheart, you know. She definitely was a sweetheart. And so I took that into account, and I talked to the guy before I seen her, and he said that, you know, you're the first person that's ever came and seen her. Nobody has ever seen her. And I said, I can tell you why, because you got her listed as just a full-blooded pit bull, and she's not. I looked at her and I told I still to this day think she's pit boxer, because she looks just like a pit boxer. And I will get a DNA test because I know they're not all that accurate, but it'll tell me something. So we call her a pit mix right now, but she is definitely pit boxer. But where her story begins and Mason's intertwine is when I brought her home. So I didn't want to meet them in the house for the first time. So I had Chad hold Blue, which by this time I renamed her Bella because I was looking for a name in the car on the way home. And I was like, what about this one? No. And then I looked at Chad. I was like, hey, what do you think about Bella? He was like, dude. He's like, I literally was just thinking that name. I was actually going to say something. And I was like, all right, well, Bella it is. And she's learned her name really well because let's face it, when they get a dog in there, they said that she was dropped off by a family that could not keep her any longer. Like they were moving or something. So they dropped her off and that was it, you know, and I can tell she was abused. Like her ears, her demeanor, everything about her tells me she was an abused dog, like big time. And the whole time that she was in there, they had her on medication to calm her down. You know, like tizanidine, I think it's called. Like they actually had her on that like every day. And I was just like, man, that's ridiculous. You know? But I brought her home and I introduced her to Mason. And she would growl at Mason at first. but she's really good with humans. But when you start seeing her around other dogs, it's not as good at first. But now her and Mason are pretty good together. It's been a few months and they're pretty close. I mean, for the most part, Mason still like puts her in her place at times and stuff like that, and she's still a heifer and growls a little bit, but not at Mason, but it's more at River, which is Chad's new dog. But yeah, so let me just say this: I don't know what's gonna happen in the future with me and Mason, or Mason and I. But I'm thankful for every moment I've had with him. He's been my ride and die for 10.5 years, and I plan on having him be my ride and die for as long as the Lord lets me have him. I'll do everything in my power to make sure that he's safe, and continue to have him on his Mason cam on my stream on Twitch, guys. Just don't forget that I am on Twitch. Arson.
Nothing like a shameless plug.
I was waiting for Arson on this one, but I think he's partially asleep still. But yeah, so like I said, Mason has his own cam on my stream, and it's used quite a lot. He don't always like to sit in one spot.
I'm surprised Arson didn't say anything when we started talking about DBD earlier.
I know. I'm telling you, it's just his excuse to stay quiet for this episode. I'm just saying. I mean, he's gonna take advantage of it. But
I don't need to say anything because it's pointless. I've come to terms with the fact that we can nearly not go an episode without not talking about Dead by Daylight.
Even an episode about Mason, it's about DVD, and I did that purposely because
is the coming of day.
I did that purposely because for anybody watching or listening to this, you can catch my escapades on trying to get to Erie 1 with my doctor, just to make Al play. And let me tell you something, and if I can get the Erie 1, I will stream Al's first match as killer. I'm just saying, because I have to be present for that, and he knows that. So let's
never take me alive.
But anyways, guys, I want to do what?
When you turn into a raging killer, man.
Oh gosh, he's gonna be a basement Bubba.
I'm gonna be absolutely toxic as hell.
Oh, I know you are. I wouldn't expect anything less.
See, that's why I only play good games.
That's debatable.
It's an opinion.
That's true. It is.
You're entitled to yours. You're wrong, but you're entitled
wrong.
to it.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Oh gosh. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with me this hour and letting me reminisce about my dog. I've got a few other stories I could tell, but man, I tell you, I'm thankful for him, and I'm thankful for each and every one of you guys. You really help me get through my day sometimes, even when people refuse to game with me, like last night. Excuse me. But
hey, look, I had to work.
Well, yeah, you're off. You're scot-free.
I'm
on
off
that one.
every day.
Well, that's true. That's true.
The only time I'm not is when I'm sleeping, and even then I'm off because I'm not conscious.
I'm more talking about Arson, and him not, and I'm doing air quotes, not getting his messages.
Oh yeah, okay, not getting your messages. I get you.
He was too busy playing Elden Ring. I get it, but hey, I'm just saying, I could have texted him and he still would have not seen that message until I told him. So
you get deep in Elden Ring, you kind of just zone out the world when you're deep in Elden Ring.
Yeah, but yeah, I doubt there's gonna be a part 2 to this podcast because I do have some other stories to tell about Mason, but not many. Let's just say he's the greatest dog that ever was in my eyes, and there's no beating him at all. Like he's practically perfect in every way to me.
He is the chosen one.
He is the chosen one. And on that, we shall end this podcast all about Mason. So if anybody out there would like to know more about our podcast, From the Ashes, in the link or in the description below will be a link to a link tree. You can go there and hit up all of our social medias. But most importantly, my Twitch is in there too. I'm gonna play this out because of Arson. Like, he's always like, "Oh, this is Phoenix's all about Phoenix," though. But if you do want to know more about From the Ashes, hit up that link tree, and you can. We're on all major podcasts, so check it out.
You have no excuse not to listen to us.
That's right.
We've paid our dues. It's time
That's
you pay
right.
yours.
Exactly. But I want to thank you guys for being here and listening to me, and yeah, that's pretty much it. We can go home now and relax for the rest of the day.
I'm gonna personally come to each and every one of your houses that don't listen to this.
That's gonna be a lot of houses. That's gonna be a lot of houses. Oh gosh, don't worry, his basement's big enough for everybody.
His mom's house?
Well,
All right, guys. Well, again, thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next time.